All right, we made it to season 2. I didn't think it was going to happen there for a hot minute, but we are here. So,
Oh, technical difficulties. Life in the
oh
Great
yeah,
White Northern Michigan.
that's because you pretty much get snowed in.
Am I lagging
So it
already? Are you
happens.
serious?
Are you lagging?
Oh my goodness. Oh my
Maybe
goodness.
maybe
This
you
sucks.
maybe you uh maybe you cursed it. Can you hear me?
That may be. It could be. It could be. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I can definitely hear you. Maybe it's
All
just
right.
StreamYard. I'm just gonna blame StreamYard.
Seems like you have problems with StreamYard sometimes, don't you? All right. So you want to try to go ahead and crank this out? We are live. Um, or do you want to try to?
It's your call. I'll leave it up to you. I mean, like it seems like the
All
time,
right.
but if you're getting a delay or any kind of a lag, I don't know. I
It seems
don't
like
know
it's
what else
not
to do
too
with it.
bad. Yeah, it seems like it's not too bad. So I'd
Okay.
say just go ahead and roll with it. We were going to keep it short today anyway. And this actually kind of goes in with what we were talking about today anyway, which is just kind of the power of the reset. Because life doesn't always go the way we plan it, our business doesn't always go the way we plan it. Our live shows don't always go the way we plan it. And that's just part of it. And, I think the biggest thing to remember is when you kind of hit those moments is your ability to be able to kind of stop and think about, number one, what is happening, like what's going on right now to make you feel the way you feel, or whatever is going on, like right now, technical difficulties. Is this something that I can do something about? No, not at this moment.
Yep.
So, and then it's like, okay, well, how are we going to go ahead and move forward? Which you just watched us talk about. Are we going to go ahead and reschedule this live? Or are we just going to kind of make a little clunky chunky? And, those are things that no matter what's going on in your life and your business, it's a good idea to sit and, kind of go over and think about, because, life happens, right? And whenever you're kind of faced with these moments where you're getting, frustrated or stressed out, or things aren't going the way that you planned it out, then it's very important to be able to stop and just literally stop, think about, what it is that you're facing, and think about what it is that you can do to be able to reset the situation and still either make it work out for you, or maybe it's that kind of a indicator that you need to kind of reset everything else going on in the rest of your life. I'm gonna let you go ahead and share something, that way you can get some time talking into, because I
Yeah. Well,
feel, well,
part of it
we'll just
is
pause. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Part of the aspect of what I like to call the decision fatigue. And when you have that decision fatigue, it's usually due to the fact that you have started the fact that you don't have the ability to time to sit down to really think about what is the next thing that I have to do. I saw this a lot in, especially when our habits and patterns of life through COVID got turned upside down. I saw a lot of decision fatigue because we had to start deciding things that we just took for granted, or that we had habits formed around. And we didn't take the time to kind of sit back and actually think about it. So there's a couple of ways to be able to do this, but let me just give two at this moment. First of all, the very big one is planning gaps between your appointments. So in other words, don't plan your appointments back to back, because one of them's going to go over, or one of them's going to go. I mean, like you're going to end up. I usually have about a 10 to 15-minute break between each of my appointments. The second thing is you've got to plan in time in the morning or in the evening, and it's not just about planning out your day. It's about thinking through what's going on. It's about being able to slow your mind down enough to be able to actually have that reset moment.
I can hear you.
Go ahead.
Are you good?
I'm stopping.
Okay. So, no, you're good. You're good. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's super important to do as well. And I think that, we can think of it, the kind of the idea of resetting what's going on with an appointment or like a day or a week or a month. But I just started thinking about this. It's also important to think about when you're thinking about just like, what do I want to do with my life? I know I faced kind of a big decision this past winter. As a lot of people know, especially in my area, I opened a coffee shop a couple of years ago. And, you know, that was something that I was super passionate about, super excited about. And during Christmas time, I decided to kind of change my entire business model. I literally reset the entire business model. And not because I didn't love it anymore, not because it wasn't working. I did it because I was feeling stressed and pressured, and I felt like I had lost kind of my own sense of balance within my family and my life and everything. So that forced me to have to do what I said earlier, to kind of take a step back and look at what I was doing and why, and literally hit the reset button on my business. You know, sometimes I think it's a lot easier if things aren't going right. You know, if first, like I've in the
Oh,
past, I had business stuff that was crapping up because it just wasn't working out. That was easy to reset because I was going broke, right? That was easy. That was an easy reset. But sometimes when
well, the
things,
pain definitely itself makes you make if the actually want to have to change, right? I mean, like when you have that
Mhm.
pain of knowing that it's not going the way you thought it was going to go, that forces you to want to reset. But more importantly, when you're looking at your life, I've said this before, but I think it's really applicable at this exact moment. The path to success and a path to a nervous breakdown is separated by a razor thin line. And
Yep.
that thin line, you can identify that by whether you do drainers and drivers, you figure out what's actually driving your energy, what's draining your energy. That's a whole worksheet that you could do to be able to kind of figure some of that stuff out. But in order to do that, you have to actually take time to think. You have to take the time to quiet. You have to take the time to slow down, because if you just keep going, the adrenaline will never stop. The decisions will never stop. It just never stops. And it's life and business both.
Absolutely. Well, and I think one good indicator is, you know, a lot of times people will start to feel, and this is what I started to feel. I started just to feel like I was not ever getting to do the things that I wanted to do. I was feeling that pressure just to run, 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 run all the time. I was feeling just overwhelmed and stressed out. And I mean, although that happens, you know, here and there anyway, it was literally, there wasn't an end to it. It was like all day, every day. And it had been for quite a while. And, you know, when I started looking at what was causing it, it was the same thing. And I didn't want to believe it was that because I loved that. You know what I mean? And I had to take a hard look at it and say, okay, while this is something that I love, it was taking away from what I wanted my life to look like. I didn't want my life to look like
Yeah.
spending every weekend at the cafe. You know, if I was to like write, if you was to hand me this notebook and say, Maria, write out your ideal life. What do you want your life to look like? It would not be spend every single weekend, you know, at the cafe and dragging your kids to the cafe just so you can spend the weekend with them. That wouldn't be listed, right? But that's for the last 6 months
Yeah.
before I decided to close. That was my life. And it was because it had taken over so much of my life that I didn't expect. And I had to make that decisions. And you know, sometimes those decisions are super hard to make. But they're so important because if we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, not only in our business, but in all of our life, we are crafting our path to meet what we want our life to look like. And I know that I've said that, I've spoke that, whatever, but sometimes it's really hard to live those things. And I had to kind of make that decision. And I think that's one of the reasons that I kind of wanted to do this talk today, was because I think it's so important to really understand the power of the reset in our own lives and in our own mindset, in our own business. It's huge.
Well, and don't underestimate it either. And so some of that comes what you're just talking about, the 6 months, and I think we've all felt this. There is a certain amount of pressure that we've either placed on ourselves or society has placed upon us that says once you start something, you've got to make it successful, which means you sacrifice everything else that's out there, health, family, I mean, everything, for the success of said business, because you've defined, or the world has defined success as making the money, making sure the business is going to be profitable, so on and so on. Why do we fall into that? Why do we actually go back to what that is when we've said, okay, I'm going to start a business in order to have freedom? And the contrary happens is you start a business and you realize you've become a slave to that, because now instead of working 9 to 5, you're working 6 to 10, or 6 to 11. I mean, every day, weekends included, and the family gets dragged into it, and the whole 9 yards. So it's like we've traded one slavery type thing for another. I mean, it's ridiculous. Why not craft your life? Why not be able to do that? And if things aren't going the way that they're going, you've got to take that time to back and say, well, how did I get my butt into this position? Is it because this is something that's going to pay off in the end, or is it because I feel pressured by the outside world to maintain this certain level of presence, certain level of facade? Oh my goodness, I could talk all day on this stuff. I mean, like, this is just really one of the key elements that if you are going to be successful as a person, if you're going to grow as a person, as an individual, you've got to take the time to be able to basically analyze what the heck is going on in your life.
Absolutely.
Without that analytical time, it's going to happen. I'm throwing it back to you.
You're good. You're good. No, I think it's true. And I think it kind of rolls right into Parkinson's law. And I know we've talked about this before, but, Parkinson's law basically states that, the work you have expands to fill the time that you allow for it. And again, this is one of those things, I know I've read about it. I've written some stuff about it. I've spoke on some of the shows and stuff about it. And I still fall into the trap so often. And, I think that whenever we as business owners and entrepreneurs, when we're trying to build something or trying to add to something we've already built, we end up putting way more time into it than we actually need to. It's because we're not being particular about how we're spending on time on things. And, I think that that's another reason why it's super important to think about, where you're wanting to be. Like, where do you want your life to be? And you mentioned, we quit our 9 to 5 to work, 5 to 9. And it's so true. And while there's going to be elements to that when you're starting anything new, there's going to be more hours put into it. If we're stopping a job to be able to have more free time, that shouldn't be the norm. That shouldn't be how we craft our day. That shouldn't be how we plan our day. Yeah. And I think a lot of us are guilty about accidentally falling into that. I know I have been bad about that in the past. I would spend so many hours here at my office that I didn't really need to be at the office. I was just at the office because I got so used to being at the office. Yeah. And I was just here just because I was here, instead of really being conscientious about, okay, well, here's what I need to get done today. Here's how long I think it's going to take. And then only being here during those hours. I was just here. It's like I was still in that mindset of, oh, okay, well, 8 to 5, right? I'm there 8 to 5, even if I didn't need to be there 8 to 5. And I quit my job because I didn't want to be there 8 to 5. So it's just funny how we do that.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. So let's maybe transition and say, like, what do we do now? How do we fix it? How do we actually take the time to set aside? What are the practices, the habits, and things that need to be in place in order for us to not burn out, to not implode?
I would think number one is look at what you want your life to look like. That's number one. It's cliche, but we only get one life, right? And yes, there's elements of responsibilities in there, but there also should be elements of just enjoying life. So what do you want that ideal life to look like? And, once you know where you want to be, that gives you the opportunity to sit and plan out how do you get there. And, don't be afraid to kind of write it out and fall on your face and have to write it out again and fall on your face and write it out again, because it's likely that that's the case, because we figure it out as we go along. But it's important to know where you want to be, because then when you have those moments where you sit and you look over your calendar, you look over your plans, you look over kind of what you've got going on now, you can ask yourself, is this in alignment with where I'm wanting to go? And, you know, I mentioned about the cafe. I had that discussion with myself during Christmas break. When we had closed down the cafe for Christmas break, I had a discussion with myself on, is this leading me in the path where I want to go? I didn't start the cafe to spend every weekend at the cafe. I started it because I loved it. I started it because I loved creating the things. So I had to come up with a different business model that still allowed me to keep the part of it that I loved. So we do catering and private events now, but I can schedule those in, and I'm not here every weekend. So I was able to keep an element of it, the part that I loved, but still kind of just pivot that and reset that back into the lane that was going toward the life that I want to live. So I think it's important to know where you want to go and then keep reassessing what you're doing now to see if it's in the right alignment with where you're trying to be, because it's easy to accidentally get on the wrong path, right? You ever be driving maybe and you come up to a road and it says that you got to take a detour. I am horrible with directions. Horrible. I've had to take detours before, and then I don't even know where I'm at. Google Maps won't come on because I have no service. It's frustrating. And it's easy to end up kind of on that detour, lost in the middle of nowhere. But it's very important to be able to get back on track. I know you're still cutting out.
So there's two things there. Yeah. I'm going to say something. Oh my goodness. So I don't know if I'm here or not, but one is Stephen Covey's that begin with the end in mind. And that's really an absolute key. The second thing is make sure you create the time. And even if it's 15 minutes, you got to plan. You got to put it in there. You got to put it on your schedule. Otherwise, you'll never do it. So make sure you plan that. Even if it's from, like, I tell people, get started. Start with 15 minutes. I mean, like, that's such a small part of your day. Just 15 minutes to be able to plan out your day, or to plan and just have silence. Don't have the phone on. Don't have anything else. Just put it into your day. If that's where I would tell people to start. Just start with that right there.
That's me. That's all right. You know what? This is how technology goes sometimes.
I give up.
You just have to go with it. All right. No, that was good. I mean, yes, you definitely want to have a plan. 100% have a plan. And I love the advice you gave about scheduling in 15 minutes. Even on the days that I don't really feel like doing a whole lot of work on whatever it is, my business or content or, whatever. I always try to schedule in, something, and 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something that, again, is kind of putting you going toward that path, another step on the path to where you want to be. And, I think it's super important for people who have multiple responsibilities, which is pretty much all of us. But some people I know I talk to are still working their 9 to 5, but they're trying to pivot out of it into their own business. And that can seem like that's never going to happen. But if you put 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes in it, you're still getting a step in here or there. And it's super important to be able to do that. But to be making sure that you are taking the step back and figuring out, oh, okay, this is where I want to be. Am I in the right path? And once you start to feel like things aren't lining up, you reassess and kind of reset and start going again. Are you wanting to try to talk again, Tim? No? All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up since Tim's having some technical difficulties here. And pretty much what we want you to take away from this is, no matter where you're at on your business journey or your life journey, if you want to be able to get to that destination in your life you want to get to, it doesn't matter what you got going on now. You can hit that reset button. You can take that step back. You can figure out kind of where you need to be, make that plan, schedule it in, and start on that path to get to your destination again. So we've really appreciated you being on with us again, and we'll be on again next Tuesday. And hopefully the technical difficulties will be wrapped up by then. But thanks a lot, y'all.